Godson Nwankwo is a young Pan-Africanist who is passionate about the establishment of a new political order in his country. He advocates for citizens' participation in politics as the country director of New Africa Youth Movement. He is currently the alumni governor of school government and politics and a member of the opposition party in Nigeria.
Thank you so much, Terania, for that kind introduction. So I don't know, my video is dark. There is no light here and it's raining. I can't even open the windows, right? So maybe you have to permit me to go without video, right? So I don't know if anybody here. Okay, thank you very much. Right. Okay, so how elections work. A case study of the Nigerian 2023 elections. I was actively involved in the just concluded elections in Nigeria, from the party primaries to the campaigns and to the general elections. And of course, I documented a lot of experiences during these processes, and I hope to share a few of these experiences with you. And I'm one of the people that actually believe that Africa is a country. In other words, I believe that from Uganda to Zimbabwe to Ghana to Kenya, our challenges are almost the same. So most of the things I'm going to share with you today in the next 15 minutes are probably things you are aware of, and maybe some of the things that you are not also aware of that is going on in our political systems, right? So I hope that we'll have an interesting conversation, and during the question and answers, you are open to ask any questions that you want to ask, because this is an enclosed space, right? Okay, next slide. Okay, just an overview. I believe everyone here knows that elections are a core process within our democracy. So they provide opportunities for important debates on the future of a country, right? Elections that are free and fair help make sure everyone gets to have a say in how their society is run. And by doing this, you have the chance to influence the change for the better. Now, I put it that if citizens really understand how their participation strengthens their influence on issues they care about, they will be more inclined to elections. They'll be more inclined politically and participate in elections. Now, elections in Africa over the years has been a kind of do or die affairs. Most citizens have lost hope in the electoral systems, because in my country where I come from, people believe that their votes don't count. So there is no need for them to participate, because they believe that the people who are going to be the leaders in different positions has already been selected before time. So this is one of the major issues of political apathy in my country. You know, before the elections, I was engaged in PVC drive. We visited so many higher institutions, encouraging young people, helping them to register for their PVC, especially first-time voters. And I have a lot of experiences. I remember in one of the schools that I went to, that's Obafemi Awolowo University in the Southwest, a young lady told me, say that he's not interested in elections anymore because she knows that her votes will not count. That our leaders already know the people that are going to be the next presidents, the next governors, leaders, National Assembly, and all the rest of that. But then I tried to let her understand that we now have a new electoral act that was signed into law on the 25th of February last year by the president. Now, this law provided guidelines on how elections will be conducted, from primary elections to general elections to the tribunals. And of course, the Independent National Electoral Commission, which is the body that manages elections in my country, has given us the full assurance that our votes will count, our voices will count. So the least that we can do is for us all to get our PVC, and on that day we come out in numbers to make a statement on the changes we care about. And of course, many of these young people registered, right? A lot of them registered. On that day, people came out. But then there were some kinds of stories that we heard, right? Okay, next slide. Let me now begin to share how elections work. Okay, this is a summary of how elections work, particularly in Nigeria, because I'm using Nigeria as a case study. It starts with party nominations. Now, this is actually where our leaders are selected. For me, I believe that over the years, Nigerians have not really been directly involved in selecting their leaders. It is only a few privileged people that make these elections at the party level. In our electoral act, there are three processes of conducting nominations. You have the indirect primaries, you have the direct primaries, you have the consensus. Now, the consensus is the agreement within the party that we are bringing out one candidate to represent us in this position. So everybody that is an aspirant, for that particular position within the party, we agree that, okay, everybody, we are going to support this one candidate. There is no need for elections anymore. That's for consensus. Then for direct primaries gives every member of the party the opportunity to elect the leaders. So that means everybody that are members of the party will participate in these elections at the party level. And the indirect primaries is the selection of the delegate system. Few persons are selected, to now go and vote during the elections. Now, what I observed during the party nominations, last year was that campaigns at this level are not issue-based. It is about how much or how long you have stayed in the party, how much you've committed to the party, how you've been able to help people in the party financially. These are things or grounds that will be reviewed for you to win elections in the party at this level. And there are people who call the street generals or the king makers. What these people normally do is that they decide the people that will be the delegates to these elections, and they also influence the choices of these delegates to a particular candidate. So if you are not among the establishment, or if you have not gained the favor, the heart of these people, it is very difficult for you to get elected at the party level. It has played out severally. So because of this, the people that always emerge to represent the party at the general elections are actually people who don't understand the issues that will face, or people who are going to serve the interests of the kingmakers. I have an experience last year with my friend. My friend was running for House of Representative elections to represent his constituency at the Federal House. So I followed him practically to all the places we went, meeting party stakeholders, party leaders, and our campaigns were issue-based. We were talking about the things we are going to the National Assembly to do, ranging from presentation, oversight, and lawmaking. So this person understood what he was going to the National Assembly to do, and he has a track record, of influencing policies. He has a track record of doing things in the community. But there was a problem. He was new to the party. He just joined maybe 2 years before the elections, and he was a young person. So in some places we visited, we were told that he's too young. People were like, before you are even going to qualify, it has to be up to another 4 election cycles before you can be able to qualify. So on the basis of the fact that he has not stayed in the party for a long time, he's a young person, he was not qualified to get the party ticket. But then we continued with our elections, with our campaigns, meeting stakeholders, telling them what we want to do, our agendas, everything we outlined. But on the election day, it was, to my greatest surprise, my friend did not get 1 vote. Now, we had a lot of people who told us they were behind us, we were going to win, a whole lot of things. But then he didn't win. He didn't even get 1 vote because he was young. He didn't join the party, maybe a very long time. He has not sacrificed for the party. It is not yet his turn. So it is turn by turn. When it is not your turn, you are not qualified to come. You are not qualified to even throw your heart into the ring. But he had the courage to do so. So this is where the major election takes place, at the party level, the nomination level, because whoever the party brings out to represent the party at the general elections is who the people will vote for. In other words, we have 18 political parties in Nigeria. Now, if all these parties nominate people who are not competent, who are not credible, who don't have the antecedents in public service to actually lead the change that we want. These are the people that the population is going to choose from. So that's why this is the most important part of our elections. And for me, after the whole elections, my own recommendation is that we need reforms at the party because there are no internal democracies in our party systems. It is actually this internal democracy that will ensure that campaigns are issue-based, that elections are free and fair at the party level, that it is not influenced by how much you have, how much you can pay. It is not influenced by decision makers, the king makers, or the street generals. And it's unfortunate to know that people who control the party systems at this level are actually, you actually see touts, you're going to see talks, you're going to see arboreals, because the professionals are already pursuing their goals, so they are not interested in elections. You're going to see people whose thought process and thought patterns does not correspond to the 21st century changes that we want. Well, these are people that make selections, that make decisions of who become the leaders that we have. This is one of my observations. Then after the nominations, the party will send the list of the people that won the primaries to INEC, and then campaigns will start. Right? Then at campaigns, this is where the citizens have the opportunity to question the candidates on their policies and the things they want to do, their manifesto. And one thing was interesting in the last elections. You know, over the years we've had elections, but the 2023 elections in Nigeria was kind of different because the conversations were issue-based. It was about party manifestos. You see people talking about ideas. Young people actually took the center stage, particularly on Twitter, and they were calling out politicians. People were organizing, calling for debate at their constituency level, calling those people that will be their leaders to come and share their ideas. So at this level, this is where you get to know the people that are vying for position to represent you at the federal level, to represent you at the state level, and you have the opportunity to ask them questions on what they intend to do, you know, as lawmakers, on the changes they intend to bring to your community. So this is also an important phase of the elections. And for me, I think it's very important. And citizens don't actually participate in this level, mostly because of still the same apathy issues. There are people are not interested in elections anymore. People have lost faith in the systems because they believe that whatever they do, these things does not matter. When politicians get to the office, they forget about their promises, they forget about their manifestos, they forget about all the legislative agendas that they presented to the people, you know. Then after that, you go to the main elections, which is what happens at the election day. And this is where I observe the elections from the polling unit activities, the collation center activities. Now, this day is actually the most important day in our elections. And I had the opportunity to now come to terms with reality, because for most of us, we have an idea of what elections should be based on the experiences or the things we've studied, the things we've read, the tenets of democracy. So we have an idea in our heads on how elections should go. But when you get involved on ground, you're going to understand that it is not actually the way you have in your mind that elections should go, that they go. There are a lot of things that happen that is against standard practices that has become even normal to the system. Now, in the last elections where I observed, elections were supposed to start by 8:30 a.m. according to INEC calendar, you know, the timetable that we brought out. But then where I observed the elections in my state, Abia State, you know, to be precise, election staffs arrived the polling units at 12 noon. Some other polling units, they arrive at 1 p.m., 2 p.m., when elections are supposed to be rounding up. Now, thousands of voters were on ground at 8:30 a.m. waiting for this vote to come. But when they came, they gave excuses of, logistics issues, transportation issues. But then we all knew that this was a way of disenfranchising voters, because a lot of people were not able to vote. Because thousands of people were in the queue waiting for them to come, and they came late. And a particular polling unit where you have over 1,000 people, you're supposed to have 3 BVAS machines that should serve those people for elections to go effectively. Then we saw INEC officials coming with 1 BVAS machine to serve 1,000 people in a particular polling unit. These were the issues. There were issues where thugs disrupted the election exercise going on. So I witnessed in one of the polling units, and it was scary. Now, for me, I thought that my country has gone beyond this kind of elections. Probably when last witnessed those things was 2011, 2007 elections. So we all believe that in 2023, these elections were going to be, about the issues. It was going to be a level playing ground for all the political parties. But mostly the ruling parties deployed thugs, to wound people, to threaten the INEC officials, carry ballot boxes, burn the ballot boxes, because probably they feel that in some particular places, the opposition has strongholds. So this election will not come out in their favor. Right. Then after the main elections, now we now go to the tribunal. Of course, a lot of people are going to have, they are going to be unsatisfied with the outcomes of the election. There's always been like that in Africa. I think Patrice Lumumba once said in one of his presentations, he said, elections in Africa are not won or lost. It is not an election where losers will pick their phone and call the winner and congratulate them and tell them we had a fair fight, but then the will of the people prevailed. Because the systems, nobody trusts the systems, even the politicians themselves, especially those in the opposition. So they want to go to court, because many times the outcomes are not always, like I said, what it should be in reality, as we have it in the ideal. So tribunal, people go file their case at the tribunal, and then I think this is where the final elections are decided. First, you can go to the High Court. You have the High Court. After the declaration, if you are not satisfied with it, you go to the appeal court. From the appeal court, then to the Supreme Court, where the final verdict will be declared on elections. Right. So next slide. Okay, for me, getting involved in the election process was about passion and interest. I've always had passion for our democratic institutions, because I believe that if my country is going to move from a country where the status quo is not worshipped to a country where development and progress are made the most important priorities, it has to be through our elections. We must get the process that elects our leaders right. And for me, I think that our electoral reforms are the most important reforms, because you cannot begin to build a nation if you don't have leaders who are genuinely interested to serve the people, who understands what it means to be in public office, who understands that public office is meant to serve the public good. It is through elections that these things happen. So that is why I'm passionate about elections, and it is my interest that pushed me. Then my cycle openings came up, and I have to apply to be an election observer. And I think more than 3 civil society organizations invited me, but I have to select one. where I served with. I served with Connected Development in partnership with Civic, AIF, Dean Initiative, and I think one other organization that came together, to set up an election hub for these elections. So my passion and interest stems to the fact that I'm interested in the establishment of a new political order. And I believe that the only way this can happen is through our elections. For as long as you do not have credible and fair elections, the people that are going to emerge are people whose characters, whose integrity, whose competence will always be questioned, because the will of the people will not prevail. The processes we have witnessed so far has been about selections. People are selected, people are imposed on us. In my own state, for the first time in 24 years, since 1999, when Nigeria returned to this fourth republic, we've never had the opportunity to select our leaders by ourselves through the voting process. But this last election was, I think that was one of my high points in the elections, because it turned out to be that the people who we vote, the person who we voted to be our governor was actually the person that won the elections. And that was because of the introduction of the BVAS technology, because the ruling party wanted to also, manipulate the systems, but the people stayed back at the collation centers. People went to the street protesting and saying that no, this will not happen. We have to follow the BVAS. We have to follow the data in the BVAS for us to arrive, at the accurate votes that the people gave, to each of the candidates. And that was what happened, for my state particularly. Of course, there are flashes of improvements that we had in these 2023 elections, of which I must comment, but then there are also pockets of violence, pockets of setbacks that we had, especially the presidential elections. The National Assembly elections was some sort very free and fair, because for the first time in the history of our nation, we saw a party, what we call the minority parties, coming up to elect up to 34 members at the House, that's the lower chamber, and about 7 members at the red chamber, that's the upper chamber. It has never happened before. Then the total of 68 members at the different states House of Assembly constituencies were elected. And this is because on the day of the elections, the National Assembly elections were uploaded via the electronic transmission. In the Electoral Act, INEC states, the law stated that it is only the results that are transmitted electronically from the polling units that are authentic. So those results are the results that will validate whoever wins the elections. But we saw the case where the ad hoc staffs were not able to upload the presidential elections, but they were able to upload the Senate and the House of Rep elections. So that was why we had a free contest and a fair contest in that regard, to the extent that we had, I think, a farmer that won a seat. We had an Okada rider that won a seat into the House of Rep through the opposition party, that's the Labour Party in my country, right? So generally, I got involved in the election process because of my passion and my interest, and then my network, the network of people I've built over time in the advocacy process, actually opened up this platform for me to serve as a domestic observer. Yeah, next slide. Okay, what people don't know about the elections. I think first, most people don't know about party politics, the politics that happens within the party. The campaigns in the party are not issue-based. The party systems is majorly dominated by the kingmakers and the street generals who control the game. So like I said earlier, if you are not a party man, if you have not invested in the party, if you have not made sacrifices in the party, if you have not helped other people win elections in the party, if you do not dance to the tune of the kingmakers in the party, it is very difficult. It will be very, very difficult for you to win an election in the party. And I'm talking about the two major political parties you have in Nigeria. That's the APC and the PDP. Because I'm a member of the People's Democratic Party. And these are the things that I realized. So you must dance to the tune of the stakeholders. You must dance to the tunes of the people who are going to become delegates, because they are going to tell you what to do. And exactly whatever they say is what they're going to do. And one painful thing for me is that these people are not people who can make quality decisions. Like I said, they're going to have organizers or caderizers because they have been in the system. They took advantage of the fact that the intelligent people, the well-exposed people, the people who are technocrats, professionals, do not have interest in these processes. So they take advantage of it and dominate the party system. So you cannot just come from nowhere and try to change the ideology, because there has always been an ideology that is predominant in the party, and it has to be that it is our own. We are in the control of the system, and it is who we want that will go there. And who we want is not going to be based on, has this person made sacrifices for the party? Is he a party man? Is he somebody that can give, stuffs like that? So these are things that goes on within the party systems that most Nigerians are not aware of. So what we are aware of is during the general election, we have the candidates, that we are going to go to the polling units to, to choose between, according to, based on the political parties that we have. Then the collation center magic. This is where elections are rigged. And that was why after the 2019 general elections, some civil society organizations came together and said that because of the way elections went through, there were overvoting, there were a lot of malpractices. Let's advocate for electoral reforms, particularly the electronic transmission of results and electronic accreditation, to be able to solve this problem. And truly, this was going to solve the problem, because we saw it in the other elections I mentioned. So they were able to manipulate the system different from what the Beavers technology showed, right? So the reason why mostly the presidential election was not uploaded real time from the polling units were because this collection center is where the magic happened. I was at the collation center, I think on the presidential election, I was there at around 1 a.m. in the midnight, where different wards were bringing their results. And you could see party agents fighting at the collation center because figures that you normally know, this was a figure from this polling unit, are beginning to change. So most people don't know. Some people go to the polling unit, you tell them, protect your vote at the polling unit. They will stay there, they will count the votes. Yes, it's free and fair before everybody. But then there are transformations that these votes will go through before it will be finally announced. So it is at this collation center that the magic happens. Now you see a party that did not even score up to 100 votes, getting 1,000 or 2,000 votes. That was, this was the thing that the electronic transmission of results wanted to solve. But then we saw it happen in some elections, state elections, and even the National Assembly elections. But this did not work in the presidential elections. Even as at now, all the polling unit results have not been uploaded, but a winner was declared. But that's not what I want to talk about. Then the final thing people don't know about is that the system is not designed to be fair. And that was one thing I observed. So I have it in mind that the next time we want to go into an election, we have to have it in mind that the system is not going to be fair, because if it was not defined or designed, The system is not designed to be fair. What happened in the last election was that INEC gave the people hope. Myself, I traveled around inspiring people. I don't know, can you hear me? Hello?
It's good, so you're clearer now, but you're breaking.
Everybody can hear me, right? So the system, like I said, is not designed to be fair. Like I was saying, INEC gave us hope that our vote was going to count, that everything.
All right, I think Godson is sorting out his internet. He should be back in a few. Meanwhile, we can be taking down notes, jotting down a few questions and thoughts that are coming up from the presentations.